Look at the trade markers that came up. They're all pretty good. They're not a matter of, hey, if I got excess materials, maybe it'll be a worthwhile thing. So where you're buying, you get two of a quantity for $1 billion. That's better than the prices on Earth. You know, they're one for one there. When you sell, you get 2 billion per, which is significantly better than you can do on Earth. Kind of makes sense. Although the question of who exactly is buying this shit does come to question, Are there, is there more abstracted than just resupplying the base, etc., and the settlement situation? Is there also like additional construction and companies that aren't covered in the game that is representing this demand? Because it's really hard to justify something that's produced in a particular base being sellable for that much money. Anyway, I'm starting to figure out my first round shots, and I got a rover that wants to go to Europa. Europa's too far away for me to explore with a CV yet, so I want to take care of that. It's a little dangerous. It's radioactive, and I don't have the shielding, but whatever. Yeah, I think the orbiter is affected by it too, so I might as well go with the best thing I got. And I repaired my CV and I'm sending that out. I don't know what it's doing, but to begin with, it's going to go to the base, drop off a bunch of new goods there, just because every time I lift off, I might as well send materials up, given that I can send more materials with that. And eventually, right now, this is a small supply station. Probably this turn it's going to go up to a large supply station. But that doesn't let me build a CV3. Eventually, I'm going to get spaceports out there so that I don't have to rely on building on Earth. So, I found 2 billion I think was supposed to be spent from China. I'm working my way through and have gotten most of the players shipping, following the same kind of strategy that I did with the first one, the Pakistani Indian combination, which is, that's kind of hard to believe, but they have something they want to go to that they're not at, so I'm going there. I did some damage to this somehow. I think the only thing I've put on there is the camera. I'm wondering if it gets hot at all. It's kind of bubbled there. Sucks. Yeah, I have been building a CV for everyone except North America, which has their CV coming in. Doesn't have a huge hoard of cash, and I'm willing to kind of forego a turn because, again, I don't think I have enough money to get me through the decade for the most part. So, hey, whatever. In terms of everything, because I want to build bases, I want to do all kind of stuff. Well, I don't have infinite cash. That first turn, I felt like I was able to fling out a lot more stuff. But that's all the robotics, which is not as impressive. So, and in some cases, just not sufficient. Can't build bases with it. Can't do CV exploration, whatever. But I got to Japan, which is another tricky one. Now, Japan, like some others, like the Asians, has 2 lifters. And I'm sending one off to go deal with Mercury, pick that sucker up. Great. Can actually keep it. But the other one, I'm low on cash, and I'm not really sure I want to build a spaceship just yet. I could conceivably, if I get a station here, build something much larger than what I have. You know what? I ought to be repairing these damages too. I'll do that when I build bases. It should be done now, I think. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll go through it and try to figure. But the part of the problem is, I made up this rule. Hey, I want to not be able to build bases unless, not be able to upgrade bases unless they fix their damage. I don't think anybody's really too keen on getting their mining upgraded at this point, though. So I'll hold off on it because I could use that extra points. The real question is, do I want to build, my base building CV there? I should have capacity for another base, and that might be helpful towards getting me out further into the solar system. But on the other hand, it may not be my best use of points. Maybe I need to just lift stuff up to my base. What do I have here? I've got a buy there, which is not bad. I can use cash from Earth to do that purchase. Better be able to, because that's the only place cash exists. And thus get more iron. Now, one of the things though is, yeah, I could do that, but I've got a lot of iron there. Why don't I wait until my settlement grows? You probably want to conduct each trade though before the decade ends. You get one trade per decade. So, if I look here, well, unless I get my settlements up to 3, it's not going to give me anything additional. And wow, I believe that what this says, and we haven't seen this yet, is that the resources and tech that you can gain from either mining or research goes up. I don't remember seeing that roll, but that sure is what the chart looks like, and I'll have to go look for it. Could be an artifact of something that got discarded as well, but I think it's more likely I'm just forgetting it. Yeah, so I'm going to hold off on sending that second ship up with Japan and just see where we end up. Not sure why this is. Yeah, this is more of a general purpose ship with 4 exploration and 4 carry capacity instead of the one that's better at building bases. I'm fine because I want to explore Mars, and that thing can do that. And I'll start building the bases to support the Mars colony there. And we're on to movement. I'd start on the movement with the Asians losing both their boosters. They didn't, not an engine destruction, but they didn't get the recovery value. And movement has created something of a mess, as you can see. All kinds of CVs heading to Mars, carrying shit. I could just use rockets to carry shit, but I want to get those CVs deployed. They were all on Earth. Boom, they're going up. And it's just going to be painful. Next turn, too, going into the flyby box and everything. Just a lot of movement of items. We do have some exploration going on, not a whole hell of a lot. I think we'll see a lot more once all those CVs start flying around. More reasonable explanation, although this does get a little tiny bit warm, is that maybe I put my pipe down on here. Boy, that was a mistake. Actually got a couple of depletions. I think one against here by this flyby. Yay. Something. Nothing of value, nothing big. And the important one, the Neptune one, the EU managed to get it after the US failed. And that meant we've got a new goal out there, Titan, for everyone. And the EU has 3 missions collected, which are allowed to have this 3rd decade. Anything else terribly interesting? I don't think so. And now it's base building time. Basically, every single player has increased their supply stations on Mars. Now, Mars is a little screwed. It has an atmosphere, so I can lift size 4 off of it. Doesn't need an LV or anything like that. Only off Earth do you need the LV for whatever reason. And part of that is there's nothing that big that you'll be sitting on. But anyway, my feeling is get those up to the large supply stations. That way I can get out to the asteroid belt if I want to. Do some exploration out there where it's a little less picked clean than Mars is. And move forward. And what have we not seen? We haven't seen any attempts to terraform being done. Why? Because I'm not sure what it does. First of all, everybody shares in on it. So again, like with the diplomacy type thing, everybody would get a bonus if it's terraformed, but some people might get more bonus than other eventually. It's just not clear right now what that is, and it may be that Mars never gets terraformed because everybody's interested in it. This much. Because of this, the game is simpler compared to High Frontier. You might see something in High Frontier where a whole bunch of people do stuff to make each other's things work better. This is more competitive feeling. The concept behind the game is exactly the same damn thing as it is in Space Core, right? And presumably leaving Earth from what I understand. But the difference here is, or the difference with High Frontier is, it's so hard to get your shit to just work that it kind of ends up like after the Holocaust, the old SPI game. Now that game is bigger problem than High Frontier is, but you just kind of don't feel like you're really trying to win the game so much, and I think that's fine. And you end up a lot of times just like, geez, I just want to get this damn mission to work, or I want to get this thing produced. And so I feel a lot more collaboration in that available than there is in this. In this, it's pretty easy to get your shit to do what you want. Now, you might end up in a situation where you're kind of pushed against the wall and want something really badly and are willing to pay a little bit more than it's worth to someone else, and therefore you both gain from it. But I feel like there's a lot more cases in High Frontier where you both gain from something, because by helping each other a little bit, you can end up building technologies that you can both use better. So, a little different flavor for that. I find this easier by a lot. Like, that cooperative type thing is kind of like, oh God, I really need this. I'm fucked. I need this. And somebody's like, I can help you. But if you're playing solitaire, or if you're just focusing on your own stuff and not listening to when somebody is saying, I need this, you're kind of left in a situation of, you're firing off on your own. And what you might end up discovering is during a break or something, after it's too late, probably, oh yeah, we had something we could have worked together on. I just don't feel like there's that kind of, obscured advantage to operating together in this game. Remember how I'm incapable of noticing these? Increase resource production bases by 1. Again, that's very vague, right? But if it's what the large mining station does, that's a pretty big bonus. So that'll be 1 of each of the resources that's produced at that base. If it's something else, I don't know. The game just doesn't fucking explain it well enough. It leaves it ambiguous. It might be in the errata fact, whatever, but that's such a large set. And this, the glossy paper makes it impossible to add stuff. Always a bad move to me. Unless you have the rules fucking perfect, do not put them on glossy. A little bit of a counter mix problem. I would kind of like to go after Titan, but I got so many things going against me. Not a whole lot of cash here. No lifters. I'm going to have to buy lifters at some point, but at what level? No probes. However, how much do these cost? So at 3, 4, 5, I get to make jumps quicker with that. Let's do it. I got a capability to sell stuff. I hate using up my cash this way, but let's do this, and we'll use the flyby, which has a better chance of, getting multiple shots at Titan. Of course, it doesn't get to stick around, but I'm going early in the pickings, in the builds and launches and everything, so that's not an advantage, but because I don't know, if I knew no one else was going for it. But you're probably paying attention just to your own thing when you're setting up, hey, what am I going to build and whatever. And then once you actually launch things, you're like, well, yeah, I'm going to the same place, Almost everybody's sending something out to Titan. The one exception, two exceptions. North America is launching their CV. They decided not to. Russia already has an orbiter that has a shot. That'll be getting the first chances at it for quite a while. So we'll do that otherwise. Other people are sending things out into the Saturn area. They don't have to decide it's going to Titan until they get in the Saturn region. So rovers and orbiters can kind of choose, which of the planetary bodies they're going to surround. The unwieldy mess moves forward into the flyby box. It'll be easier once everything's in their bases and delivering all those goods with them. Too big blew up. The booster that the Asians were using, which was just a one-pointer, didn't survive re-entry. But other than that, obviously we have messes, and I kind of fucked up, and I'm not sure I got everything where it's supposed to go. Hard to keep track of that kind of crap when you're playing too many people. Another mess showing up, coming in with more shipments from Mars, build more bases. The Russian base here is interesting, but it's kind of hard to justify growing it too much when Mars is just better. Okay, so in exploration, I'm not sure I'm done with the Russians yet. Let me just make sure. It looks like I am. They just had their orbiter run. Nothing too exciting, but the Russians managed to get the Titan shit. They didn't find life there. It's pretty likely that they would, like 15% or something. But that got them another mission marker. And now the new one is Io, which is unfortunate because it could have been one of Saturn's moons, but instead it's one of Jupiter's. And that may change the targets for some of these rovers. They may not want to go after their home thing that nobody else can take and instead go after this. In fact, they probably want to. It's a pity it's not an orbiter, because they could throw an orbiter around Jupiter and be able to go for both. But, theirs is reserved for them, so they might as well go for this new one that's just boosted into the scene. The players focused on getting their supply centers bigger on their Mars base. Let's see, I don't remember which one it was there, but Russia went to a large. However, we had a mining station increase here for the Japanese, who already had a large supply station. They have a pretty big base there. They don't have a ship there. They need to get this supply station up to a shipyard, and they're going to have to throw some shit up there so they can build a new CV. No reason to build it on Earth if they can get a real shipyard working there. And for the South Americans, they did something kind of weird. Their points worked Um, the only thing they could really build that they had available to them was a larger settlement. Now the reason for this is I can shoot fuel up here on this LV3, and well, a settlement 2 doesn't necessarily help me, but I'm getting bigger, and make some cash off of that transfer. So I'm probably, I feel like the players are mainly just servicing their Mars base and building that out. They're not in a position where they can build bases out here because those are construction costs of 7. Well, yeah, I don't think there's anything. The Russian freighter, which actually got killed, didn't it? Maybe not. I rolled a 00 on it, and I was terrified. But no, that's a 100 standard percentile dice. But it confuses me when I see like 3 zeros show up. Anyway, I thought I had killed it, but instead, yeah, there is nothing that can colonize anything out here. These are all 7s, and that means that I have to have at least a 6 with exploration capability. Nobody's got that at a level 3. Now, if we'd made it up here, we could build them, but we aren't there yet. And I believe that's the end of 51. Getting to work my way through the builds for this third year, I guess, of the 50s. I noticed something kind of interesting that I just kind of realized. The mission markers are getting quite low. There's 2 left. That means there may be a timing race to get this mission marker. And that's kind of an interesting position. I was looking at China and I'm like, well, they've got something set up that they can send to IO, which is that. That's great. And then do they forego Ganymede? Well, maybe, because I'm not sure what I want to do with my cash. Fair enough, but here's the problem then. Oh, I hope I'm at range 1 still. Yeah, the crew vehicle range 2 is way out here. Okay. 3 looks closer, but it's not actually. It relies on getting 2 first. So don't worry about that. But yeah, I mean, there's sort of this, gee, how do I take into account the fact that when these get cleared out, it may be one person who gets the next, the option to the one remaining, mission for the decade, and similarly for the rest of the game, it's going to kind of be like that. There's going to be a real shortage of missions. The point that we're in the decade, everybody's kind of building. Except the Chinese, who decided not to build anything. They don't have a whole lot of money. They want to see how things play out a little bit more. They've got a couple of missions. They've got something heading to Ganymede. So they're actually the one, I was talking about Ganymede, they're the one who doesn't particularly want to go look for Io. Well, yeah, so here's the thing. Their rover, they're going to land it on Io instead. That was the point. So they're the only one who's holding off. Everybody else is launching something in that general location. Now, he's got an orbiter. He's going to try to land on Io first. And again, a lot of people who are going to commit to Io might not get it because there's 2 people who have shots at it before them. But they decided to go for it anyway. In some cases with flybys, which is kind of cool because a flyby, may run into something cool somewhere further out anyway. And we see crude exploration on the asteroid belt starting out, and other people conglomerating for that Io race that they're probably going to lose. But the U.S., oh man, end up getting a consolation prize, but Yeah, they just blew a bunch of money on a rover and a probe, sending it out on that IR race, and boom, it blew up on the launch pad for them. For the rest of the movement, and this is everybody going for IO now. I kind of screwed up and did things in the wrong order. I'm always getting South American and the Asian conglomeration mixed, but whatever. The only other failure was Russia lost a booster, which is not that big a deal. Getting, I think, fairly lucky overall on the boosters, but poor North America. I mean, they got hosed early on with some bad rolls, and now they're having trouble here too. I actually was kind of hoping that that was a crude ship because it would have survived with the roll it had, but the booster would have been lost. But instead, the whole mission scrapped. It had insult to injury. The U.S. Triton mission surrounding Neptune. It was going for both. Ended up failing there. So far, we've collected nothing. Our ships keep breaking. Just cursed dice for us. The EU, on the other hand, got a successful depletion here. Not too big a deal. And, except I think I forgot to roll for life there. They also got a depletion here, which was their mission. And they cleared that out and put that mission back in for the victory point because they've got enough missions. And now they've got one for Mars that's also a crewed mission. And more valuable. However, it doesn't really matter because I would just put it back in the deck so that there's so few missions left. Now there's a 2/3 chance that I've got a mission that's over here in the Mars area every time I put one back in. There's something a little weird about that, but whatever. Hit the 4th year of the decade, and it's kind of interesting. I stand here poised, ready for as the camera loads up to do this. This is just a habit I've kind of gotten into. I don't know why. But let's waste more time on that. Okay, so the builds. I guess one of the more interesting builds, we've got a small refinery now here for the Russians. And other people have been upping their supply stations, especially based on Mars, so that, well, it doesn't really help. You need the large supply station to make it out to Mars, out to the asteroid belt with the CV3s. But I think somebody actually threw a spaceport up. Maybe I'm mistaken. No, I don't think anybody got it. And then one other interesting little piece is the Japanese increased their settlements. One of the reasons for this, well, no. I keep thinking it's a reason, but the 1 to 2 says I can still only trade 2. But, you know, screw it. I had the stuff there. I didn't have the stuff for anything else. It's probably a bad idea. But if I can get another settlement there, I could buy 4 of these trades. As it is, I can buy a bunch of ore there. But I'm still going to have to shoot something there to build up more. The Japanese don't have a whole hell of a lot out. They're, I think, the only country that doesn't have a crewed vehicle doing any work for them. And there's no real absolute need for one. There's a slight advantage here because this gets a bonus from crewed vehicles. But if I build up my bases well enough, I'll be better able to support things. I'll be producing more. I'll be able to buy more with my trades, etc. So, I mean, just lifting my money up to build up my base situation might not be a terrible plan. Japan doesn't have a lot of quantity that they can afford to put out there. Their ships are expensive but good, and they have advantages with the robotics still. Better malfunction rate than anyone else. That's it for tonight. I can only do 1 turn a day on work days, it seems. I'm not sure why. I just piss away. I pissed away until dinner time, and then after dinner I come up here, and now it's pretty close to bedtime. Working my way through building things up in this 53 here, and well, let me go over. So far nobody built anything until the US, and they decided they're going to go for their Triton again, and built themselves a level 3 booster. They're the only ones who can't build a level 4 booster, for whatever value that ends up being. But then I found the CV2 sitting here for the Russians after working my way up. I don't know. I don't think it was destroyed. I think it's there, but I'm not absolutely certain what's up with it. I certainly think I would have remembered if one had just had an engine failure and been destroyed. But I kind of feel like I may have pulled it off to try to decide what to do with it. I almost feel like it was this way, but maybe I repaired it. And I think the intention was to, I probably made change and moved this off. I think the intention was to ship stuff there. I have something I might want to do though, which is Pluto, and I think I'll launch something for there because that takes forever to get to. I finish off the purchases, and Russia bought what I mentioned. Japan, not buying anything. I don't have a whole lot of money, and I have some Explorers on the fire right now that I'd like to pull back in. Not launching a CV, that's kind of the big thing. I'm saving my cash and seeing what I can do in terms of building up that settlement. And one thing I can do with cash is I can just buy iron here. So if I build another settlement there, then I can buy more iron at cheaper, and that's kind of a deal. Stuff I don't have to lift. South America, this time taking advantage of this, I bought a bunch of resources to ship out there, and that's all that they're doing. All right, movement. And with the 4% error rate, boom, the rover dies on its way to Io. And that's only one engineering jet. New exciting happened in exploration. Japan lost their Mercury rover. I think that was this time. And China fatigued their crew. Otherwise, no depletions or anything exciting. Go to the base building. And for Pakistan, building a settlement, this will give them an opportunity to make some money. They can convert some of this fuel. They can sell up to 2 of them, which would give them $4 billion, and then they could ship that up. I don't know if I want to do that or build things. We'll see what works out. But it's probably not a bad idea to clear this out of there. I don't think, well, fuel's not a bad production there. The board gets kind of messy. When there's a lot of stuff going on in it. And the EU actually that's Russia, did use their trade chit and bought themselves a bunch of supplies, which will help them build up this base. But they're out of cash now, but they only had a couple billion, so there wasn't exactly a lot of money for them to use there. Most of the rest of the power is not really building anything at all. They just don't have the cash on hand, or the materials on hand to build anything too much. I think somebody did, but I don't remember who. Nothing too exciting. And that pushes us another year forward. And again, we're almost out of money with people here. Russia's down to $2. North America has 5, which, yeah, but I have no launcher. That's kind of a problem, especially since there are no real materials here or anything. Europe, out of money, but lots of materials here. China, some materials and a decent amount of cash. But Asia down to $1. Again, building materials available, but not much more. Japan, fair amount of money, not much. They don't have much deployed, and probably going to have to fire something back off to Mercury. And then South America here, a good pile of money and a good position actually, but they couldn't build anything because they need to unreserve that piece. With limited purchases, I bought some materials. I didn't have to do it right now. I can do it when I actually launch them. The Chinese have a lot of money, and I could get up to a shipyard or whatever and start building stuff there. But there's sort of a, gosh, I don't know, what do I really want to do out of my base? But bringing more materials is the easy part. Figuring out what materials I need to send up so that when I build base, I build it in correctly and all that. That's where it gets kind of hairy. It makes it, I can just have money on Earth, right? Which can always turn into whatever the hell I need. For me to, if I start building ships here, and I obviously don't have enough to, but, let's say I wanted to build this. Well, I would need 332. And like with the bases, I have to have that in mind and be thinking that in advance when I launch whatever I'm going to send up there. And then it's not there till next turn to use. The resources are there for base building, but they're not there right away for the ship. And I'll probably build a base instead of a ship or something like that. I don't know. Japan is restoring their Mercury mission. They want to get their victory point for that. I have something going for IO too, but I think. No, I have something going up here for God knows what. Because IO's over here. What the hell is a probe on an orbiter going for? That was probably Titan, I think. That's long past? Seriously? I don't remember. Anyway, a whole bunch of people are heading out into Saturn because of a mission out there, I guess, that got cleared. And no, it's not really available. All right, on to movement. China actually decommissioned their level 2 ship, the Shenzhou. It's just a matter of... it would have cost me almost as much to get it operational and send it back up, and it's pretty damn useless. I got this thing out here, which is almost as good as exploring, and I don't have to bother with lifting it off. I didn't have a level 2 lifter. It seems better to me to keep supplying my base one way or another. That's what happened. Otherwise, nothing exciting in terms of the movement so far. Long-lasting orbiter died out here, and we got a Russian crew tired as we about halfway through the exploration stuff. Nothing else exciting. Much else. I mean, people are collecting chips, right? Nobody got a depletion though, and China lost their flyby. And that puts us to bases. And essentially nothing built in bases. Yeah, there we go again. There was one. Let me see. I thought I was getting another spaceport here. Somebody else built one. I think the only one that got built was the Russian transfer over here allowed them to build a settlement there. That's kind of important because now that lets me play with that trade card. And that's, I can buy iron up there. And then I could ship that iron. So I have $2. I could ship 5 iron back to Mars. Mars is low on iron ore for some reason. It produces a lot, but whatever. And that way I don't have to worry about lifting off from Earth. So I'm allowed to do 2 trades there. Why don't we do that? That'll load up what we need there. That gets rid of my purchase. And now I don't get another one immediately or anything. I have to wait till the end of the decade. But this gives me a chance to transfer this over to the more important base on Mars. And I have some chance of Mer growing intrinsically. I don't think anybody else really wanted to make trades. So like I could do the same thing here, but I have no real use without getting other stuff there that I don't have. It would take 3 fuel. It's just too much of a pain in the butt to get this stuff up there. What about here? Oh, and here, for example, I could sell fuel, but I don't have a whole lot of fuel, so screw that. I could lift a bunch up in order to be able to sell it, but I would rather get my settlement to level 3 so I can sell 4 fuel instead of 3, because I can lift 4 fuel up there. So that's a possible goal for them, if I remember. All right. Finding a lot when I come back to the table is, for example, here I had a bunch of resources sitting on top of this rocket. Obviously, I bought them last turn, intended to boost them. So I made the quick roll, did that. And now I'm going to take the next step, which is actually not to increase. I thought I was going to be able to get a supply station. Yeah, I don't know. Can I buy a settlement? I can buy a settlement that'll allow me to buy more fuel. Oh, how much use that is. Gosh. Maybe I boosted garbage. I think I boosted the remains of that ship. If I recall correctly. Which, you know, I wanted to dismantle and get that up. But what that means is I don't really have something that I can build sitting here. It would cost me 2 to build this. It would cost me 3 ore to build this. I don't have either of those resources available. So no big deal. Ooh, but you know what I'm forgetting every fucking turn? Space mining. Every damn turn I'm forgetting it because it doesn't happen during production, does it? It's not necessarily a big deal, but I got to keep an eye out for it because I haven't done it. It's down here. You select a resource type, you get 1. And maybe you get another one. Okay. So one of the problems is I want to do exploration with these ships. And if I do the space mining, I end up taking away their exploration opportunity. So I think I'm doing the right thing by not paying attention to that, even though I have ships out here that can do both. But as I get later in the turn, maybe I want to do more, maybe I want to take shots at the space mining. Because if I can bring those resources home, maybe it means that I get more production next turn because of it. Just because I built something bigger. Nobody's building ships, but people did buy resources in the pre-planning sort of thing. Again, that's not necessary. That's just for my own sanity. While I'm going through everything, let me figure out what I'm doing this turn. What can I boost? And I'm remembering that my South Americans can boost an extra resource. I think I remembered to build extra resources by the Asian base. I don't know. You know, again, things are spread out in too many places. You need one cheat sheet that has everything on it. So, and that's what this intends to do. It doesn't take advantage of. So there's a lot of space on here that's not terribly useful because every player has one of these. That's the information on here. So this is all unneeded. What could be present here is using the space a little better. And again, you know, I mean, I can't complain. This is somebody's design for tracking this information, but more space would be useful for playing solitaire, for example, because I could write each nation in a little box the way that I do in Age of Renaissance. I find that hard to cope with, though, so I haven't really worried about that. I tried here, but whatever. There's just so many nations. There's 7 Age of Renaissance. I'm usually playing with 6. And they tend to gather, and it moves up the line. It's not quite the same kind of thing. I don't remember what I use for that, like maybe numbers or something. But another thing is to capture the, you know, per player information. So like that, you know, being on the same sheet. If this had all the tech information and all the player information and all the policy information that you would ever use on here, but I think it doesn't. And that's the other factor that I kind of avoid with this is, yeah, I'm not convinced this contains everything that I need. It's designed, for someone else who maybe is more focused on, some series of their play, but maybe not. So let's see, for example, Earth production bonuses are on there. The CV production roll. I don't know what that is. I know there's one that the exploration. The different CVs you can construct. But I don't see, I may be mistaken here, but I don't see, for example, the base cost reduction. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I honestly don't know. This may be everything. But when it's not the only means of capturing all the information, it's a little painful. Some of the movement, we got a close call on 03, moving this thing out of the flyby box into the base. 03, that's below the 05, but I'm at 04 because of engine improvements, and it's a CV3, so it goes down to a 1% chance. Sweet. For instance, with the solitaire stuff. So I'm constantly getting the North Americans, Russians, and Europeans confused for whatever reason. I'm finding myself having trouble with all the countries, but just, I got this blue here, and I see blue, and I think US blue for some reason. I don't know. Obviously, European Union fits better. Just my own brain not working well. It's blue, it's just a different blue. And somehow I'm often getting Russia and Europe mixed up. I don't know if I'm getting as much of the others except for the Asia, South America, where the flags are not real flags that are like, I don't know, they're composites. But again, forgot the Chinese entirely. So, make a quick roll for their liftoff. 82, it works just fine. I know they got resources there. And South America's flyby, just as everybody positions themselves on IO, finds the depletion there. And now we got another one on the Comet that came up before, and that's a crude reaction. Might send some people off of Mars just to race for this sort of shared goal. The shared goals, you get to sit on your goal. The shared goals you don't get to sit on, anybody can take them, so maybe you want to compete for them. And also pulled a success over here on Mercury finally. Second try on this chip. They got them their chip and some stuff. And now the last of the missions is Venus until the end of the decade. Got a depletion over here on Ceres, but they also tired out their crew. Fair amount of points on that. They weren't able to use the card. It looked like it might be able to, but you kind of have to unbury things and see, hey, does this card apply? It's decided with the resources beginning to decrease here, although they're further from Mars than I thought. I thought I was right next to Mars. With the resources decreasing in terms of the depletions on this particular planet, maybe because somebody, the US, got a depletion and a success. Which I just said, I think, but I say things and it's a few minutes later when I get take back on camera. They decided to do a production roll after they did their search roll, and so they survived. The tiredness. They get multiple tiredness checks for doing both. But what the hell? Production increase, the only base increase I made was here in South America. I increased to a large mining station. Why? I don't know. I don't have enough materials to use a spaceport. The settlement's probably a neat idea at some point, but I'm going to want to get more fuel up and sell that off, get more cash off of that, and we'll probably do that on the next lift because I do have enough cash to make another lift, assuming nothing too exciting happens. I do have a fatigued ship that's going to be returning. I've got to keep that in mind when I do my calculations. One thing I'm noticing that's sort of another mental twitch. So for example, with this, I look at this and I think, I need 2-2, not
oh, I need to go look at the next counter and see what the upgrade cost is going to be. It all makes sense. And honestly, you can see the influence again here of with the, yeah, maybe not so much, but it's just reminding me of it, the little cost circles and stuff. I like when I make connections. Hey, here's somebody who is a whiff fan, and they're doing whiff-like graphics on the counters to kind of tell me the information that's on it. And there's just something that reminds me of it, even if it's not really, quite the same. But it's like, hey, that works in this game. Let's make this kind of pop out at you a little better than maybe it would otherwise. Anyway, in that game, you only have one cost on on things, but it's in a little circle and it kind of looks like that. And it's in that location, which helps. Okay, so that's the end of the year. And we're moving a little slowly throughout the week. I don't know. Throughout the game, I have trouble finding enough time, and a turn takes a certain amount of time, and I kind of have to play a whole turn at a time. I get kind of a mixed feelings on this. I got 5 politics markers. I could buy 3 resources and keep a couple of politics markers. The problem with that is politics markers are really valuable in terms of turning into research, I think, because each one creates 2 research, and there's kind of no way to just sort of generate loose research. I can generate loose materials with just money. This will turn into money next decade if I can't spend it on the research. On the other hand, if I increase this to, say, a larger mining station, the refinery, I think it goes up to +3. Yeah, it goes up. So I'd be getting 2 more of each resource, which, wow, that's kind of hard not to do. If I increase the settlements, well, that's not clearly worth anything. But this is maybe the only way that I get something going up for the mining station to get that increased. So I think I want to do that. I've got enough of this stuff, but I will need 2 iron, and what else will I need? That's a good question. I'll be using 3 of these. I'll actually have a shortage of those compared to fuel for my resupply efforts. So I'll probably send that up. Everybody is either doing nothing or sending a lift up. One exception is China is sending a lift up, but they're also sending a probe, an orbiter out to Ganymede. My flyby didn't work there. I used it on Io, I think, instead. When I had a rover there, I think I fucked up. But, when I had a rover going there, right? That was kind of a mistake. It wasn't the intention, and the flyby was destroyed. I have enough money though to launch another thing, so we'll do that. And I want to movement and exploration if I don't see anything exciting during movement. Everybody kind of made their movements without any incidents. Both Japan and Europe going for Titan. South America decided, okay, let's go somewhere else. That's got a higher chance. We don't have a spectrometer, so we don't get the edge for that to screw up. However, after South America moved their ship back and everything, they had a failed launch. Ouch. I don't think you get a mechanical for that. This was a completely failed in a 03. Let me look it up and make sure they don't get an engineering chit for that, but they lost resources, which are as valuable as a small ship, maybe. I mean, how much does the telescope cost? The telescope only costs 2. I pumped 4 resources up on that thing, so. It turns out if you use the LV for cargo, you actually do get the bonus. So that's good. You get one for any ship that you're sending up. Well, not much of one. Now realize, so like a political chit would generate 2 of these points. I just got 1 point. Okay, whatever. But I sent up the equivalent of 4 political chips worth of stuff. So in terms of like when you start looking at the equivalencies, etc., and it's worse than that. I failed to get the resources I need to build this ship. Now I'll probably sell this fuel because well, I got some political chits left, so I could actually launch another cargo up there and see what else I can get up there. And the problem is the cost. So like for 2 I could send 2, for 3 I could send 3, but I don't have 3 if I spend 3. Actually I have 7, so I could do 3 for 3, but that gets me LV2, which maybe isn't what I want, and I can't kind of fix that. Of course, I can just keep shooting cargo up using the LV until it crashes. Bad turn for South America. Not only did I have that failure, the flyby failed without discovering anything over here at Dion, and the rover got like a bio 1 shit, you know. Not the kind of payoff I was hoping for, given the resources I lost this turn. Nasty must be happening around Saturn. 2 of the flybys went down there, Russia as well as South America, I think. Well, not too much happened beyond that with exploration, but China then got the super bonus. They not only got a depletion here on this comet, there's no world card, I drew one, big deal, buried. But they found signs of life on it, which I forgot to give them their additional politics marker for. They took the Comet Victory mission. There are no new missions, so until the decade starts, there won't be a common mission for anyone. And yeah, that's a pretty damn good result. Didn't get hurt. I don't think I can mine the comet. I'm not sure. Let me take a look. Because honestly, yeah, there are no resources, so I could not even if there was some rule that said I could. Yeah, if there are no resources somewhere, you can't possibly do it. There's no world card that can be played there, and there's no bonuses there, so we're all good. All right. Yeah, there is something terrible out here. The Asian flyby went down too. That gives them a mechanical chit. They did succeed in a draw, though. Ooh, nice one. I don't know how much it matters. They succeed in a draw against the Spanish one, which is the highest success rate out of them all, which is why, and they did not get much there. Closed things off with success, but crew tired. That means no more mining there for them. And I think we're on base building. Still a rocket there. I'm going to start selling some of these. I can't figure out another good use. I can refuel my ship when it gets in. I don't really have enough to build anything. I don't have the capability to throw stuff up. So, yeah. Let's sell 2 of these. That'll get me 4 fuel back. Yeah, they're only 1 each. I'm allowed to sell 2 because of that. And that gets me, since they sold 2, I get 4 billion. And that shows up at Earth, of course. EU, I have a painful choice. I was set up to go up to a refinery here. But if I do so, I don't have the resources to unflip my ship. Another option would be to build a settlement, but I think I'm just going to not build anything this turn, see what happens. I might discover more stuff. Right now I have 2 politics markers. That could lift 2 stuff. If I get a 3rd stuff that I can lift, I'll definitely send it up. If I don't know for sure. Oh, I don't have 4 of these, do I? No. South America also sold fuel. That was in the plan, but we thought we'd be able to recover this thing. I don't have the materials to recover it. The extra cash will help me pull things up for bigger build. Other people, for example, Japan here, they had materials up here. I could have buy some iron and maybe do something. But it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do anything exciting from Earth itself. And the order here is trade with bases, then build and expand bases. So I can wait till the very last turn and buy those up to 4 ore, because I have 2 settlements. And in the meantime, maybe I'll get a resource up there or something, be able to go up to 3 settlements, and I can buy even more iron. Although I don't know how much iron I fucking need there. But so far, this thing isn't self-sufficient, and I don't think it'll become it. EU actually did not. They were considering building the refinery, but they chose against it because I would have to unreserve. And that pushes us out of this turn. Okay, correction. Earlier I couldn't find this rule, and it kind of puzzled me as, should it have an effect? But over here in the component stuff, and this is the thing, there's a lot of rules in the component stuff, which is probably not where I tend to look and why I didn't see this. But under damage markers, it actually states, okay, look, if you damage a settlement, it doesn't count. If you damage a mining station, refinery, or research lab, it produces less points per point of damage it's taken. Damaged spaceports and supply stations are a level lower than they actually are. And I just played the last one with the damage to the mining that it wasn't. Could I have fixed it? No, I don't think so, because it happened in the event phase before the production. Everybody got a cheapie on the production, though. And it probably hurt somebody like the US who, had... I don't think they had a mining station built there, but they're pretty hurt from a lot of things. Anyway, I just thought I'd clear that up because the designer was kind enough. He's been watching through it, which is awesome. And he's been pointing out where I get something wrong, or, sometimes some other design philosophy behind the game, etc. And that's on my YouTube side rather than over on BGG. So if you're interested in looking for stuff like that, follow the video to the YouTube, and he has some comments there. I try to address them in the videos, though. Far enough into the turn, enough money spent, not enough interesting things to go searching for. Nobody's doing anything, sending new ships up, but people are sending builds up, and that includes South America, where after the last disaster, I've decided, $2 sends me 2, $3 sends 3, $4 sends 4, $5 sends 5. I might as well send the level 1 up. The reason is because of my special ability. And that way I'm sending up enough stuff to unreserve this, as well as some additional materials going up. Other people also sending things up. The US actually built a rocket to send materials up so that they can start improving their bases, stuff along those lines. Although they may not want to. Oops. I don't have the materials I need to unreserve that going up. And I won't have the money otherwise. You know what? I think so I've got enough stuff to get me a mining station. That's the thing, to increase my mining station. But there are several turns of research that I could do with my CV. I'll go with what I decided, but I don't think it's wise. For the Russians, this was kind of weird. This thing, after it had ended up here, and I put it back in, well, it should have been reserved if it was in existence. Anyway, I decommissioned it for materials, which will allow me to, prepare this ship to use and these other things, because I can't even carry what this can carry. I could carry at most a couple bucks. I'll keep the politics marker. If something, if I get enough politics markers that I can buy a load that's worth sending up to the base, I will. You can't actually buy that stuff, though, unless I get a colony there. And, everybody's kind of just fiddling around with, hey, Chinese are sending 2 different rockets boosters up. Why not? You know, Japanese and EU don't have, EU's out of money. Japan has a few bucks, but they don't have a booster, and I'd have to pay so much for the booster. You know, like I could pay $2 to boost one thing. Screw that, man. Look for North America, they lost their booster. They got their materials up, but I mean, at least building bases I don't have to roll dice for. Well, improving bases. Building them I have to roll. And had a pretty bad exploration turn. They found stuff everywhere. I think they were guaranteed to tell you the truth, but they lost both an orbiter and a rover. It's not that terrible a thing. They don't have a mission for Mercury anymore. They collected that. I had forgotten to put the depletion down, I think, so I reduced that. And I mean, they're getting a nice stack of engineering chits out of all of this, just like the EU is getting a nice stack of physics, and Russia is getting a nice stack of biology. Other people are not really succeeding in getting much done in terms of research, though. Got kind of a mixed thing here. They lost their rover, but they got a depletion and a sign of life, which is kind of cool. They used this to improve the chance of signs of life, and got a nice roll on it. They didn't need it, though. The Chinese getting it, stumbling into it, they needed it. That was a bonus tech for them that they don't have to buy now. Somewhat similarly, we lost our rover on IO as well. Again, with an automatic chance of success, we got our physics marker, increasing our pile of physics technology. How big a deal is physics? At high range, but we need to get some bio to back that up. Otherwise, we're looking at like propulsion, space weapons. EU really does look like it's going military. Wrap up the exploration. My camera didn't make its little beep noise there. With Asia, which lost their robot over on Europa, which is important because Europa is their mission, and they haven't gathered any missions yet. Remember, those things create 1 billion per turn, so you know the extra income is actually a pretty cool deal. We're in 50 right now. Next turn is increases in income on Earth, which is kind of pleasing. Base building. We're starting to see refineries showing up. I don't know if that was there. China, I think, built the refinery. The U.S. upgraded their mine. That was the plan. To hell with their reserve chip. I might cash that thing in, although it's kind of useful. It's not that great anymore. The next set of bases cost 7 each. That thing's not going to be able to build them anytime soon. Of course, that puts me in kind of Japan's position, which is no crewed vehicles exploring. Russia built a settlement and then exchanged their goods. Somebody else did the same thing. Bought materials. Spent cash to throw materials into their location. It might have been over here in Asia. The idea just being, we'll get another trade counter next turn. Getting materials on the planet cheaply and easily is kind of a bonus. Actually, I think China did the purchase because, they bought 2 fuel. And whatever, they have some additional cash available from their research that they can throw on board and boost. And that gets us to the 8th year of the decade. And I don't know, this might be the end for tonight. Barreling in on the second to last turn of the decade, all we're seeing is boosting materials going up. Oh, look, I got an iron. The EU probably making the biggest expense. They threw away a bunch of politics markers to get some iron up here. Why? Well, that's a good question. Why? So part of it is delivery, but I can increase my settlements. which increases my chance of increasing my settlements more. There's basically a 1 in 10 chance that this will grow, 2 in 10 if it's a size 2. That's the only thing I can build there. I don't think I had a better option. So it would take 3 iron to build the supply station, and it would take 4 to build the refinery. So yeah. Others, less painful choices, to tell you the truth. But, you know, it is kind of an iffy thing. Do I really want to boost that material? Would I have been better off getting some additional tech? I have a fair amount of tech coming in there, and I feel like, I don't know, bases are cool. I mean, it's tough to make these judgments. I can't tell, you know, it may end up that 3 extra political chits, 6 extra tech would be exactly what I need somewhere. Prefiguring that kind of stuff is just too much for me. Too exciting with the lifts, they all, and the other transports like CVs going to Mars, whatever. The Russians deciding to investigate the main asteroid belt instead of some of the more interesting planetoids. Somebody, China, lost their 1-point booster, but the materials made it up, so it's not that terrible. Was built because I needed a 1-point booster to lift something off. I don't know. And that's what I could afford, being out of money now. So that means it's time for exploration. Successful depletion over here, and that kind of forces me into an ugly little halt because I gotta shuffle these cards. They probably were initially intended to be some kind of small card or something. This is definitely better in terms of not blowing away. More expensive, no question. But it's a pain in the butt to shuffle. I can live with that. You don't have to reshuffle them that often. But yeah, it's going to take me a little while to do that. Similar delay. Obviously, we're getting near the end of the decade. One of these just ran out on the second pick, so you can't really blame me on that one. I had to pick that one first. That's going to be a success, but we got the Japanese looking here. We'll see what happens. There's already signs of life. They may actually discover life, which opens up this talk, which I can't read. Earth production increases and 2 tech points, but it also makes it easier to get biology here if anybody can get out there. More successes. The Chinese rover succeeded here and drew a counter for Io. Again, it's not that important, but it gives them a politics marker. That's cool. But the EU lost their orbiter out Neptune way. Didn't even get anything for it, I mean, except the booby prize of the mechanical chip. The turn rolls around at an end. Nothing else interesting on the exploration. Bases are built up. In some cases, settlements being built because that's what I could afford. In other cases, aiming at the refineries. A couple of people couldn't build anything at all, like the U.S., which is just screwed. Who else? This guy couldn't build up either. Everybody has spent their trade tokens, with the exception, again, of the North American, U.S., whatever, who don't have a settlement, so they can't. And that pushes us to the last turn of the era. I'm probably not going to do the economic phase in this era. I'll shift it to the era where it belongs in. Getting a little faster. I hope to get down to one solid video per, but this time, this time it's a little longer because I did the economic phase last video, and now I'm taking it on as sort of a technical debt. This last turn of the decade, almost nothing left to send up. Just a couple people who have an iron to send up. Nobody's got enough cash to build another launcher and send materials up and everything. We'll see what winds up after production and everything. Nothing interesting happened in movement. We lost a booster, but then in exploration, well, we lost a rover. But it was successful in a depletion over here.
I chose not to replace the card. It's becoming less valuable to explore for whatever reason. And, you know, it wasn't a bad mix. I ended up getting a double success, so a decent amount of points off of it. It clears a counter, although it's not like my maintenance costs on robots is a big deal. Oh, let me check my Martians as well. So that's 4 plus 1 is 5. I have a lab, and add 3 is 8. And this is for a possible chit. Might as well roll one every now and then. 14 means he fatigues, which gets me a bio chit. Collecting those up. And 14, wait, what did I say? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I get one more bio chit, and this is the one that counts. It's just a 1, so I don't get a depletion there. And I don't get my Mars marker. Just to show you the mechanisms again, every now and then I think it's useful, even though we're well over the video length that I intended. Okay, and no one. Now this is just going to show up Eris here. No one else has any available, so I don't have to try to look up the roll and see if there's a conflict. I would suspect it goes there first for everybody to get. Eris is way out here, which means nobody's really set up for it. People could have, but nobody had a pile of money left towards the end. If they had, they would have tried to get the jump on it. Now, it becomes particularly interesting, and that is way out here. Okay. There's just nothing heading out that way right now. These guys who are taking forever to get where they're going are both rovers with personal missions. So nobody's set up to take advantage of that. Nobody was able to build any bases, and that's it for this video because I'm going to do all the production and everything on the next one and send this one up. Well, I think I can squeeze it in quickly. Let's see what we get. Interesting factors going forward. I pulled my politics chits, modified by the policy. What are the interesting factors going forward at this point in terms of the initiative roll? Well, Europe has a whole hell of a lot of physics. Japan has a lot of engineering. Everyone else is, kind of low or moderate. So I don't know if they'd want to pay. Got to think about diplomacy as well. Whether a couple of people want to make a deal. So far, nobody's found that particularly interesting. Especially since you get your own trade marker for your base. You have to let somebody do it. So yeah. So yeah, I think I don't see a whole lot of reason to jump for the initiative. Yes, there's this. That's kind of the only real thing that I see with initiative. It's possible that somebody will have the decision to go military. But to do that, they have to go for their politics. Who thinks that this would be good? Well, right now, nobody's got a really key advantage. The EU's shielding doesn't count for military. That's only for radiation. I'm just not seeing that on anyone, and not feeling like anyone's clearly leading right now. There's a lot of people who are doing pretty well. A couple people who are doing really shitty, like mainly North America, who's gotten hosed pretty bad. Japan's in an interesting position. They're not that far behind in bases. They have a lot of materials up here, and they have some good research. I don't think they're doing poorly. Everybody else looks like they're doing okay. You might say, well, maybe the U.S. wants to bring everybody down. That's the problem. That's what it comes down to. Picking military doesn't really allow you to
I don't know if it's a problem. It's just, it's not an option. It's not like you can militarize and win the game off that. It's that you can militarize and kind of like after the Holocaust and some other games, either somebody else militarizes or you can hurt them a lot and probably not, maybe not harm yourself much if you have a significant advantage. But this is not a game that looks like, for me, is primarily focused on the military. Same thing with High Frontier, and it's more about the mostly peaceful exploration of space. The nice thing here is I'm not seeing a lot of in High Frontier. There's like the Chinese who can do nasty shit and nobody can respond to it. I'm so glad that's not here. It's like if I push it to embargo, the other guy's at embargo, he can do just as bad a thing to me. Anyway, I think we're going to save our points for tech. The EU is actually going to spend one of theirs because of their tech advantage, and they're pretty well set for military. They're going to do it, and just that'll help them see if they can get in advance. Last time I think they spent and they ended up way back here though, so it's just 10%. China gets an automatic with the military policy 20%, which is really helpful. D100 going on, you got a lot of variance. Europe, yeah, that didn't help them much. China's, well, they got the best roll anyway out of everyone, but their 20% certainly boosted it way up there. The thing is, there's no capacity for diplomacy in this. So let's say it wasn't China who had the capability to declare an embargo, but the North Americans, or if China was doing the poorest, they could make kind of, in many games, a threat of, now, I'm going to do bad things if you don't pay me, and get bribes, There's no capability to transfer funds in that sort of way. Even on Earth, you can't just shift money or anything like that. So you could say that's good, that's bad. One of the bad things about it is, well, it makes the perceived threat of violence to be not a valuable bargaining chip. There's no regular diplomacy going on. But it also means that it prevents, sometimes people buckle to those kind of threats and accede to demands that are like really not proportional to what they'd lose. I get the feeling in this game you would not lose that much by being embargoed, to be honest. Okay, so I puttered along following this and missed. This is common for me. Collect politics markers and roll for events. You put two different steps or two different things that are belong in different steps on one line, and I get screwed. So let's see what the politics are. I haven't made any decisions yet, so we should be able to undo anything. That's the first problem I had. The second problem is, it turns out I should have been rolling for pirates and asteroids in 2050. We're getting a bit of a thunderstorm. I hope the power doesn't go out, or else it'll be really hard to do this without light. Okay, 62. That is thawing relations, move all foreign relations one space towards neutral. Well, that's nothing. Okay. Great. Nobody did anything. Certainly that would have been before this, before diplomacy anyway. So I've assigned all the resources out, and the people who have small refineries have a pretty decent amount of points collected up so far. Other people have the large mining bases, and they have a little less. And of course, somebody like North America, who had nothing here except their large mining station, didn't get as much as some of the others. Okay, so let us look at what the hell it says to do. So I'm not dealing with NPF bases, so I jumped to starting in 2050. Add asteroids and pirates in exactly the same way. Crap. Okay. Roll percentile dice and consider the event probability indicated on the solar system tiles. All right. If the world is located along a planetary system with a decade less than or equal to the current decade, and the world doesn't yet have a base. Okay. Well, where are these decades? I don't know. Shit. What are they babbling about here? Along with a decade. All right, let's look at something where we have some space. I don't see a decade. Gosh, maybe they mean distance from the Earth. Maybe not. Maybe the rule book says, maybe the errata says. I don't see any decades in here. There might be some in here. Shit. Probably gonna lose power. No, don't see any decades there either. All right, well, great. And if it is distance, that means there might be pirates out here. Wow. I mean, asteroids should be showing up no matter what, right? But I guess if you explore them, but pirates? What pirates going to be doing out there? It's easy enough to see this decade is there. And yeah, it's there. 2100 here, 2070, 2050. 2100 over here. Okay, so basically we'd have to roll between, I guess, to 12 there, 8 and, what is this? 8 and whatever is up on Mars, which may be in the 30s. So let's make one roll. I mean, there was very little chance last time, and it's the same span this time. So 86, that's going to be way out here. We're not going to see any pirates or asteroids show up. Good. Let's roll again because we missed last time. 65, again, way outside. We can see this is in the 50s, and that's 2100 out there. Okay. Just give it an extra chance because we missed last time. All right, now it's time to develop the technologies, and then we make rolls for settlements. And somewhere in there, we're supposed to draw trade, aren't we? Somewhere we're supposed to draw trade, but right now. Okay. So I'll assign everybody their trade markers. A couple of things. First of all, put the markers down. Here's what I learned. Another little bubble there. You know what it came from? Drip of spittle. This might be water from my cup or something. But yeah, these, whatever the stock covering is here, it reacts really immediately to water. I mean, I just dripped a teeny bit on there and that bubbled up like that. So I'm expecting the whole game is going to be cratered at some point because I'm dripping, I drip sweat in games, I drip liquid. It's an issue about components in that case. Something to keep in mind, and not so much in terms of do I want this game or not, more for, maybe we went through the wrong production people. Just wow. I had the same problem with sort of some of the modern paper. A little bit of water gets on it, and this glossy stuff, it does it. It doesn't just bubble, it just melts. It turns into nothingness. I had that happen to one of my maps recently. Old maps, I've spat vodka all over my Vietnam map. Yeah, it's not the best for it. It poofs a little bit, but man. Don't ask. But the other thing that I wanted to mention was where these trade markers are. Cell markers are a little bit more painful at this point in the game, and Russia has 2 of them. Because basically what it means is, hey, I can give up some of my resources to get cash on Earth and maybe lift more stuff off eventually. But they're a little bit more iffy, and you're kind of stuck with the suckers. Maybe later when production, goes beyond what I want to build, but you always want to build ships and stuff. So I don't know if that's ever going to be the case. Whereas buy markers are kind of cool because they let you buy materials with Earth money and get it right to your base. Definitely something valuable when you're building the bases. All right, I am up to develop tech, and I need a break because I know that's going to take me hours to do. Granted, oh, I didn't show. This is what the tech track looks like right now. So you can see a few people way up here. Most of the bio stayed about even, and the rest of the stuff kind of lower. So the EU in physics, South America in bio, and Japan in engineering have kind of a boost over everyone. Everyone else has a balanced bio. Got some Chinese physics that kind of slips up a little above. But for the most part, the rest of the stuff is kind of in a pack. We'll see what that works out to, but yeah. I'm too tired to do that. In my hurry going through things before I did the NPF thing and bases, pirates, and asteroids. NPF, the thing that I'm not, that doesn't apply in this game because I have a full boat of players. I forgot about resource transportation, which means that everybody's got a chance to shift because everybody has the capability, the trade routes capability. Everybody has a chance to shift 5 resources. For the most part, that probably means shifting stuff from Earth to their single base. There's one player who has multiple bases. They may have some reason to shift resources over here to Mer, but I doubt it. I kind of think that's just going to stay and grow as it is. It's better to get settlements here and elsewhere where they're more valuable for victory points. This base does what it does. It's doing some research. It's fine. It's maxed out. I could build, mining there, and then what could it produce? Nothing. So yeah, it can only research and serve as a supply station. So I could build another spaceport, but I'd rather build this one up. If you've been watching these by now, and I don't know why you'd be here in this video at this point if you haven't, you'll realize I really don't like pre-calculating, prefiguring all kinds of stuff. Like what, even planning what ships I'm going to have. So I've been making some very quick decisions on this shifting. So for example, here I looked, hey, I got the capability to buy supplies. I'm going to want to increase my mining. And let's just convert $5 into iron. And I'm making the decisions kind of on that level for each of them, not really worrying about what ships might I want to buy at this base. It's just, there's just too many things to calculate and to combine in my head to cope with that, especially over so many different nations. Do you play in an opposed game and maybe spend way too much effort trying to calculate that all out? I inevitably screw it up. So it's like I'd rather not spend the effort, just fudge it and live with whatever happens, which is one reason I like solo better. I don't feel quite as much compulsion to get it right. Reflect on this kind of thinking with the planning I make in, say, an 18xx game. It's actually remarkably similar. My feeling in 18xx, even though there's no luck, is that I can't possibly predict the chaos of the other player's actions. Here there's, maybe some luck and whatever, but I feel like I'm more capable of calculating everything out even with that in play, so I feel a little bit more guilty about making decisions like that than I do in 18xx. Of course, there's also at least in a couple of the 18xx games, a feeling of, I've been through this so many times, I sort of have an intrinsic feel for what I should do. Here I kind of feel like I should have an intrinsic feel, but I haven't, this is my first playthrough, so I fiddled a little bit before I started, but I didn't get through the economic phase. And yeah, I've done a couple of them, but I know I'm not, my guesses aren't going to be perfect. Take a look at what the initiative is doing, and this is why the EU spent on their initiative, right? Basically, they had a lot of points, and that gives them some flexibility, but not as much as they'd like. Asia bought their way into
the space weapons. It was an easy purchase, a $5 purchase of, yeah, maybe one of my weakest things, but that's okay. I had to spend a chip to do it because other choices I'm kind of doing okay in, or else, like here, I could advance up to space missiles, but I don't really care about space missiles. Why do I care about weapons? Because it's required for shielding, because it's required for space flight. So there's a tree that I have to engage in getting that for. It's kind of a weird tree, hard for me to accept, but okay. I'm just playing it. But then for the EU, they basically had nowhere that they could play a piece that isn't carving out new technologies. They're at the top of the tree. Well, this one's not there yet. Everywhere, okay? So because they go second to last, they're going to have to carve out a new area. Now, they might have had to if they were even, first in initiative. But as it is, they pushed into the propulsion for 15, and now that means everybody else can get this a little bit cheaper. Who wants to? Well, that's a good question. People are going to delay as much as they can. That may not be the ultimate option. The reason the EU went for it is if I have to go first in something, well, let's use our biggest amount, and for something that's not really that advantageous. Why do I need it? I need it if I want to get to CV4s. So, hey, is there something else I would have rather gone for with physics? Well, I could go with space flight. I actually had enough I could make it, but I'd have had to make all kinds of other things that I can't make. I don't have enough bio to get me up to life support. So this seemed like a reasonable choice. It's just to, expose some of the kind of thinking that you have to make when you're looking at this chart. And it takes a little while. Although the most of the time that it takes is finding your chit on here, which is unfortunate. Those boxes are fairly small. If you're going to track them on a chart like that, that's what they have to be. Might be better to be tracking that on paper. And here's shitty. Russia has 21 bio, but they're kind of at the top of all the bio charts. So they can't afford any of the new ones, which are 25 each. They have no chits to spend. They have 10 engineering. They're at the top of all the engineering chits. The cheapest one is 15. Not enough. And they have only 5 physics. They're not at the top of physics, but the cheapest they could get is 12. So they are forced to pass with nada for the turn. And that's going to have all their production, unless their technology, unless there's something that I don't know about, which is turning money into tech. Let me just see, but I don't think there's anything that allows that. So they're probably passing. This with South America that has 9 politics charts, some decent points, at least in bio. Engineering, I don't know where their physics is hiding. Yep, this is what you got to do each time you got to make a decision, is you got to paw through all these piles. There it is. So they got decent numbers on all of these, and that 9 is worth 27 points of technology. So I have a lot of flexibility. I'm also not at the top here. And obviously not at the top on these, not at the top there. So bio is the most likely I'm going to jump for. Oh, for whatever value it is. It's not like I look over there and I don't even look at my little cards. So I think I've been doing recalls at 50% for everybody. Even though the vast majority of the people have them at 45, and that's going down to 40 this turn. Yeah. Tech doesn't help. If you can't remember, you got it. Keep working our way through. South America bought the frigates. It was the best thing they could buy. Basically, I would much rather have gotten to life support, but I don't have quite enough points to get up that high. And obviously then I can't get the space flight until I get that yet. So I spent most of my WAD
18 points out of that 27. I still have a fair amount left to play with to get myself up to frigates, which gets me CV4 and a better engine failure rate, down to 3%. So that's pretty good. And I don't think any people are going to be able to follow me. In engineering, Japan has a 12. So they have no extra points. They're not going to be able to catch up. So I'm going to have at least a 1-turn bonus in this. So that's kind of cool. The EU was doing pretty well, and they made a nice boost in physics. But with their chits, they're able to get up to 23 in bio. Everything costs 25 now for them. And gosh, these shouldn't all be here. Those are all purchased already. And I'm at the edge on both of those. And engineering, well, physics I'm out. I only have 4 points. 5 is the minimum cost. And on engineering, there's nothing cheap, and that would be 7 points. So I'd need something really cheap. The only bleeding edge stuff that's available to me is really expensive. We're at the end of the line for the technology. You can see China and South America are the breakouts with crew exploration here. Up here, the EU got up to a transfer rate of 0.7. Everybody jumped up to there. Nobody's followed them up in the shielding yet. And that's mainly because spaceflight is so far away. It looked closer, and that bonus is just not happening. And then the edge over here, of course, the frigates, which allow bigger ships. Really nice in conjunction with that heavier crew exploration. And a little bit more movement in, the start of movement in robotics type stuff, which that should be cheap for China, but unfortunately they only have 2 points left. But it'll be cheap next turn. I think robotics becomes less and less important as, the range increases and as the crews are able to do more. But whatever. The robotics, it's because it's the malfunction rate, which doesn't, and eventually it improves your robotic exploration. I haven't halved the points yet. That's pretty easy to do. Just cut your way down and work your way over. So we're all dense down here, although we've got some people with 10-point jumps. That means they wasted a lot of points, though, and that's kind of painful. China, I'm pained by this, I was at 13, 14, 15 in physics, and I couldn't make a bump. I needed 16. Jeez. Yeah, I forgot to notice that. I did notice it. I forgot to note it on video before. Okay. So that gets me down to settlement growth, which is just rolling some dice. We'll do that quickly. Now, there's something that allows you to roll an extra die or something. I don't know. Or get 2 chances for settlement growth. I think it's over here. Extra die for settlement growth. I don't know if that's a extra chance die or just extra die. So here, there's no settlement. Over here, there's 1, which means I have a 1 in 10 chance. Nope. Here, there's 2. Nope. 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 1. 1. My pants are falling. And 2 more 2s. Hey, we got a success there, so I get another settlement. Actually, I get another settlement for each of these, which means I have to look here, and I don't think there are any 3s. Yes, there are. So, yeah, I didn't know how the numbers worked. 3s didn't really make a lot of sense because these could get quite large. What does this mean? Well, it's actually a big deal because the 3 to 4 settlements means I have more trade and I'll be producing more resources. The population doesn't mean anything in the game. And now we find where to put those, put this away, and make decisions on everybody for policy. I'll come back and show you what the choices are. Fair amount of emphasis on people picking up politics points at this point.
it was seen as such an advantageous thing. However, South America popped its way into, hey, I want that 20% increase. If I'm going to have lots and lots of points off of all these politics markers I get, and they're worth 3 each, I want to go later by a lot. We're happy, or later in terms of a better initiative, because you get to go last. And the Chinese said, you know what, we really want that, because even though maybe we didn't have as many points, we do have that -4 bonus per person who's there, and we're not at the cutting edge in a couple of these technologies. Over here too. So we want to make sure we get that same bonus that we got this time. We liked how that worked. And boosting that up, this is also interesting because it means I can go to war. Okay. Yeah, but I'm not in embargo yet. What the hell? Yeah, but I do have some of the military capabilities at this point that are pretty much as good as anybody else's. So I feel pretty comfortable at this point with China saying, yeah, I might go to war. That's not the main reason I want it, though. I want it for the initiative bonus. And that puts us to, we're already officially here in 2060, but, I like to do this. And boy, made this one long. But yeah, I think they're going to be this long from now on, because part of the reason I didn't cut where I was talking about cutting on the turn boundary is because I don't think I can expose less and give any story whatsoever in play. All right, let's send this up.